Wysteria, energy, twister. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Drac von Stoller collection of stories. This is called The Boogeyman. And okay, if you're not familiar with the Boogeyman, it's Philippines wise, you could look at it as a type of aswang, okay? Just look at it as a type of aswang, but it's a big thing in the UK, the Boogeyman. I'm just not sure how big it is in the Philippines, but yeah, let's get into the story. Every night, little Johnny would lie in his bed and read his favourite comic book series, The Boogeyman. Johnny's big sister, Betty, would tease him about his comic book on a daily basis and say things like, "Johnny, if you don't stop reading those stupid comic books, the Boogeyman is going to get you." She would come into his room and yank the comic book right out of his hands and throw it across the room. The more his sister tormented him, the more anger for his sister he was beginning to feel, and the more it mounted inside him. Finally, one night he was reading about the Boogeyman. His sister yanked the comic book out of his hands and started tearing the pages out of the comic book. She said as she was laughing, "Sorry, Johnny." "Oh, but it's for your own good," Johnny replied. "I wish you were dead." Betty said, as she was laughing hysterically, "What are you going to do about it?" "Well, you're going to get the Boogeyman on me?" "You wait and see," Johnny replied, a little bit of anger rising in his voice. Betty said, "Grow up, you stupid little twerp," as she slammed the door behind her. Johnny got out of his bed and spent the remainder of the night taping the Boogeyman comic book paperback together on his desk by the bedroom window as tears flowed down his cheeks. Johnny closed his eyes and said, "If there really is a Boogeyman, come out of the closet. I want to show you my sister so you can scare her and she will stop teasing me about your existence." A couple of minutes later, Johnny was drifting in and out of sleep. A light was peering beneath the closet doors with a low lying fog pouring out beneath the closet. A voice called out to Johnny and said, "Johnny, it's the Boogeyman." Johnny raised his head off his desk, jumped out of his chair and fell to the floor. The doors to the closet flung wide open, and there stood a dark figure, over 6 feet tall, with blazing red eyes, and a sinister voice, more sinister than he could ever imagined, was calling out, "Johnny, Johnny, it's the Boogeyman." Johnny said in a frightened voice, "You're not real. You're not real." Johnny ran over to his bed and pulled the covers over his head and kept repeating, "This is just a dream. It's just a dream." Johnny was thinking uncontrollably as the Boogeyman got closer and closer to his bed. Johnny tried his best to scream for help, but no words would come out of his mouth. The only thing he heard was his heart beating and the voice of the Boogeyman saying he was coming to get him. Johnny couldn't move. Johnny slowly lowered the covers below his eyes, and there he was, the Boogeyman. Johnny still tried to scream, but nothing came out of his mouth. The Boogeyman grabbed Johnny by the throat and squeezed the life out of him and dropped his lifeless body on the bed. The next morning his parents came to check on him and were shocked at what they saw. Johnny's Boogeyman comic book was lying next to his dead body, with a note that read, "There really is such a thing as the Boogeyman." Johnny's sister said, "I told him the Boogeyman was going to get him." The end. Yep, that's a sort of classic Boogeyman tale. Something that's meant to frighten children, and it hides in the closet. And it's still a big thing in the UK. Like, I would never do it to my kids because it's just mean. But when I was a kid, I was told quite often that if I didn't go to sleep, the Boogeyman in the closet would come and get me. So I kind of relate to that. Anyway, thank you for listening. Hit that like, it's completely free. And also please consider subscribing or following if you're on the podcast. And if you're on the podcast, please try and leave me a good review because it does really help. Many blessings. Wysteria. Energy. Twister.